It is a big door. And we are not like men. Our door of our heart is very fragile. And when you let men into your heart, it's supposed to be just one man for your lifetime. This is how Yah has made us. And maybe if you became a widow, you can have two, or if you were divorced because of some treacherous reasons and stuff like that, you have another man come in, but it's supposed to be a husband, not a situationship, not a vague hookup, right? Because daughters of Zion are not made for situationships. We are made to be wives. We are made to be daughters. We are not made to be prostitutes, harlots. There's so many options after that, you know. Neither are we supposed to be widows on the street because we're supposed to be taken in, right? But the way the world works, in our captivity, this is why we're in the situationships. There's actually three main reasons why we are in a situationship as the daughter of Zion. It's because we're living in captivity, we're spread around the world, and we've been lost in our captivity with the culture, right? The second reason is that the amount of Yah-fearing men is scarce. Let's just admit it. The options are very, very slim to none for Yah-fearing godly sons of Israel, sons of Zion. Okay? So, admitting that too. And number three is because we are female and we are desperate for cover. We have to. We have to be in a relationship of covering. Either it's going to be our husbands or our fathers. We have to have covering, my sisters. And because biologically we need sex, we need love, we need affection, we're going to find it one way or the other. So we're in captivity. There's no Yah-fearing men that you can see in the vicinity. So now you end up with the men of the captivity called the foreign men, which is what we're going to go into in Ezra here, that are supposedly the only options that you think are available, so that you hop into these situations with them. And why? Because the foreign men, and when I say foreign men, the worldly men, the men out there, are no longer interested in marriage. If you really search the internet and Google that, you know it's true. Marriages are on the all-time low. Nobody's really getting married like they used to. And why should they? Because the milk is free, right? Like, women we have crashed the market for marriage. Marriage is no longer necessary to have access to sex. Why should a man pay for marriage? Why should he invest for marriage when he can have everything else in a situationship? That's how the worldly men are thinking, right? They can spin plates. Spin plates mean have many women. So the worldly men, the sons of the world, spin plates. The sons of Yah marry many women. They are allowed to have polygyny. And I like Yah's ways because they're not limited. So the worldly men don't commit. They spin plates. They play around with 1, 2, 3, 4 women at the same time. They don't commit to any of them. They play around with them. It's a petting zoo out there. Just go ahead and pet the animals. Go visit the animals at the zoo, referring to you and me. You know, have a little bit of fun here and there, and commit to none of them. Leave them outside of the shelter of their homes. Because in the world, that is acceptable. And in our land of captivity, wherever you may be, in whatever world culture you may be, I'm in the Caribbean, you might be in North America, in Canada, in Europe. This is the Western world's mindset, is that it's no longer necessary to commit in a marriage or to a woman in that kind of frame as marriage. It's okay now to be nothing. It's okay to just have fun. Girls just want to have fun, says Madonna, but that's not true. That's a lie. Women in general, we know that we need commitment to thrive because we are a weaker vessel. And when there is no commitment and there's just have fun with my feelings, have fun with my body, you play yourself like Barbie, you know, but life in plastic ain't fantastic. Not at all, my sisters. That Barbie world is not for you and I in Simon. We can look pretty, we can put our makeup on and our hair and our wigs. But ultimately, you go out for a man to take you home, not for a man to say, oh, boy, girl, you're looking hot out there, and hook up with you and have a great time with you and leave you in the morning. This is the situationships. Another kind of situationships is the one that dangles you along, right? For the couple of months that leads to a couple of years, that leads to 5, 6, 10 years, sometimes 20, and you're just never under his headship. You're just a situationship. Now, again, let's define situationship, okay? Situationship, in my definition, is like the candlestick maker of my previous episodes about rub a dub dub, 3 men in your tub. It's the man who has your heart pounding. You love him. Let's just admit it. You, LOVE, love him. But he does not love you back in the same way. He does not love you back in the way that he will publicly stand up on a hilltop and shout, I love her. He won't say that. He will not love you back and says that he's going to cover you with his headship and protect you as a shepherd would protect the sheep. In terms that he claims you as his own so that all the rest of the men will stay away. He will not publicly do that. But there is a sneaky thing about situationships is that his mere presence in your life actually repels men from you. And that's why I was saying the last episode is that situationships actually hinder you from finding a husband. And if you are a Yah-fearing woman and you want to find a husband, having a situationship with a worldly man, and this is the only kind of situationships there are with worldly men, is going to prevent you from finding a Yah-fearing man. It's going to prevent you from finding a husband in that sense. Very rarely can you convince a man who is in a situationship with you to marry you because you're not in charge of marriage, my sisters. We are in charge of the keys to sex. A man cannot have access to your body unless you give him permission to. You have the key to that. You open that up. Otherwise, it's called rape and abuse, right? But you voluntarily open your legs and spread yourself open and let a man in. This is what you have power of. But he owns the key to a relationship called marriage. You cannot force yourself into that. You cannot manipulate yourself into that. You really cannot have enough sex to have access to that. It doesn't matter how great your milk is, how creamy it is, how great you are. You cannot manipulate your way into a man's marriage agreement commitment with you. Okay? So get that out of your head. So when you are in a situationship, it's because you're longing to have that relationship. Your heart is pounding. You like it. You want it. You crave it. You've made it very clear in most cases that this is what you want. But he also has made it very clear that this is not his way. He doesn't want to have a committed relationship with you. Committed in the sense that he is your head. Okay? Daughters of Zion understand that women who are believing in the Torah and in the Bible, if you read it and you understand that marriage is not about hopping yourself over to the court and signing a certificate by the government and the state. In the Bible, in the Torah, this is not how marriage is done. Okay? So let us just set that clear right now so I can move into how to get out of the situationship. Because ultimately it is to get married, right? But first you got to know that in the world, in your captivity, you're surrounded by men who don't understand marriage the same way. They don't understand it the way the Torah understands it. The worldly men see marriage as going to the court and signing a piece of paper and committing to you through the state. So there's a three-way relationship, you, him, and the state. Okay, you three are in that relationship. He also signs away his rights to his own assets a lot of times, because if you leave him with half of his assets. It's a lot of risk associated. And if you have children, most likely with the way the court systems are going, he risks having access to his children because now he has to negotiate a agreement with the court about custody of the child, and most likely in the modern day society it's given to the wife, right? And to the girlfriend, to the woman. So a modern man risking his career, risking his empire for only one choice, because right now it's only monogamy only that he has access to. That makes it really hard for a man to commit to any woman. I mean, put yourself into the headspace of a modern man. He has access to Most of them, if they're good looking, fit, has a good, job, can pay his way, he's not totally disastrous in looks, he's okay. He can have his pick of women desperate for marriage, because this is what we are. But he can also have access to sex. And why would he give you marriage when he can have access to sex? And access to company once in a while. He can hook up with many of us at the same time. Why would he do that? Why would he hop himself over to the court? It really doesn't make much sense. It costs too much money, too much investment of his life to do that in the modern way. So for the worldly man, there's no moral obligation really in our society to get married. There's no pressure. They can have children outside. They don't have to commit to anybody. They can spin many plates. That's what they call it when you have many women going at the same time in a whole bunch of situationships. 3 or 4 of them spinning those plates, keeping them going, but they're not committing to any of them. And if they crash, they don't care. They just pick up another plate and spin it. So the whole thing is that you're very much replaceable. Your heart can be broken and next, right? And I'm not saying this to judge the men, because I can see that it works better for them in a way, because they have the ability to do this. And in the world is not opening it up for any different. This is the path we're going. No more marriage. Marriage is getting off the table. That is why we have so many women who are single. Actually, by 2030, the statistics say that around 49%, almost 50% of women of marriageable age are going to be single and have no children by 2030. Look it up yourself. Google that up. So the predictions of situationship is just going to rise. The amount of women who are going to be these big relationships is just going to rise. No marriage commitment, and even no children. Like men don't even want to have kids anymore. None of that. But again, we're living in a captivity, in a world where this is the way it is in the foreign countries. And the foreign men, the definition of foreign men are men who do not serve Yah. They do not obey the commands of Yah. They don't worship Messiah as king. They don't follow his headship. And because they're not following the instruction book of the Torah, they're not going to marry you as the Torah commands and demands it, right? So what is marriage for the daughters of Zion? Let's just rehearse that a little bit, and we'll talk deeper into that, hopefully with Brother Michael very soon, again, in the marriage questions for daughters of Zion. This is one of the questions that are coming up, but I'm going to give you a short little answer to that on my perspective based on what I know of the Torah, okay? If you just search the word marriage in the Bible, there's no word for wife. It's just woman. In the Bible, there's nothing about wife. A man takes a woman, and he takes her, brings her home, consummates the marriage, consummates and has sex. That is the marriage. He finds a beautiful woman, he takes her, he brings her into his shelter, into his protection. He has sex with her. Therefore, he's married to her. Now, if he just takes her and he doesn't yet have sex with her, he's engaged to her, he's betrothed to her. It's still kind of marriage. That's how Mary was before Joseph had any relationship with her. She was betrothed to him because she was already committed to him. He had already taken her. He didn't have sex with her. And that's in Matthew, right? And he felt like divorcing her when he found out she was pregnant because he didn't have sex with her yet. But he was betrothed to her. He was committed to her. So the first point is always the commitment. It's always, I see this beautiful woman, this is what the man says, and I'm going to take her from her shelter who she currently is in, which could be her father's. And if it's her father, then the father's giving you as a woman to the man. So it's either the man going to take you because he found you, or he's been given to you by the father who has you, or by the shepherd, the cover who has you to him. So we are taken, and in that process of taking, that's when the covenants and the agreements and negotiation happens, right? So let's say you're living at home and you have a father, or you have a head over your spiritual head who is acting like your husband, like your shelter, not having any sex with you, but he is maybe your biological brother, a relative of yours who is covering you, right? It doesn't have to be a biological father, right? So Esther had also, Queen Esther, she had her cousin who was head over her. He was her shelter. He was her cover. And she submitted to him. So whoever that is, is that person who gives you into marriage. And you, right now, in your situationship, is the reason why you're there is that you're trying to give yourself into marriage. And it's never been that way in the Torah. It's a man's thing, my girls. It's a man's thing. That's why we're in a mess, because we are independent women. Hallelujah. Independent, trying to sell ourselves on the market with no farmer to represent us. And we are trying to sell ourselves to marriage, like give ourselves away to marriage to foreign men. We are giving ourselves to foreign men. When we get reading the book of Ezra here, Yah condemns Israel for giving their daughters and their to foreign men and taking foreign women for their sons. He judges the men because it's always been the men's responsibility about that, not us. We were naturally not supposed to be involved in these things. They would ask our opinions, but we were not supposed to be the ones giving ourselves away like this. But because we are running on our emotions and we are out of desperation needing to have a cover, we're finding refuge and trying to find shelter with foreign men. And again, foreign men do not fear Yah. They don't obey the commands of Yah. They do not worship Yeshua. They're not following Torah. Okay? That is my definition of foreign men. And when I say that it's okay to separate it, I'm not trying to be politically incorrect here. Like, I'm not trying to condemn people who do not want to worship Yah. That's your choice. But as Yah-fearing women, I used to compromise too, my sisters. I feel guilty, right? There was a point in my life especially when I was in the Christian world, you think that unequally yoked is not so bad, you know? The person can be of a different denomination, Catholic or Baptist, or if you're Protestant, you know, it didn't really matter to me as long as they were not atheists. That was kind of the level that I was at. As long as you believe in Yah and you're good to go. But the more I studied the Torah, the more I realized that it goes deeper than that. Because in order for a foreigner to join themselves to Israel, the Bible says that there was one main requirement that foreigner had to do. Actually, two. They had to fear Yah and they had to keep all His commandments. So if the foreigner wanted to join themselves to Israel and become part of Israel, part of us, they had to avoid all their past. Like Ruth said, she forgot about her God, she forgot about her history, forgot about everybody else, put them behind, put all the other culture behind, and you say that my God is now the Most High, and my faith is now in Yeshua, and the instruction book is now my Torah, right? And that in itself will join you into the kingdom of the Most High, and you become Hebrew, and you no longer are a Gentile. You're now no longer a foreigner. There's no longer a foreigner. We're all one in the Most High. We're one family. We're one nation. So you can join yourself, but you cannot be in the nation and still worshiping idols and still serving other gods. If you're doing that, you're a foreigner. And so when we say unequally yoked, I mean that these people that we are trying to have sexual relationships with, expecting them to marry us, the reason why they're not going to commit to us is because they don't need to. Because in their world, with their gods and with their religion, they don't need to. Right? But a Yah-fearing man knows that he has to. Not only need, he has to. He's not allowed to pet and touch and have sex with and not commit to a woman. It's simple. Yah-fearing men, if they read the word, knows that if you are going to have sexual relationship with a woman, you touch it, you break it, you poke it, it's yours. You pet it, you stroke it, it's yours. There's no test driving in the kingdom, my sisters. There's no fun. Sex is not lightly taken, you know? It's not like that. Now, it doesn't mean that having sex gets you married. That's not what I'm saying. Because he first has to take you and make a commitment to you. But it is the process. So he first takes you, makes that commitment, and then has sex with you. Therefore, you are married. But if he's just having fun with you, missing that whole commitment part, you are now committing porneia. We'll go deeper into that. Porneia means fornication. It's having pleasure without any commitment. And therefore, the situationship. That is the definition of situationship. Having all the pleasure, all the fun, all the sexual interactions of a husband, but yet no commitment, no shelter, no protection. He's leaving you out there on the field, and you wonder why your heart is breaking. You wonder why now you've been alpha widowed, if you ever heard that terminology. Because when you had the best sex in your life, or you've had the really hard love of your life, you've met the man that really got you going. You really want him, and he doesn't want you. They like to call it alpha widowed because you feel like no other man will meet that anymore. No other man can come into that space that he filled. He filled such a big space in you. And I can tell you there's a biological reason why you feel that as well, my sister. It has to do with oxytocin, because every time we have sex with a man, the chemistry of oxytocin, our hormones, raises in us and it bonds us even more to the man. And on top of that, there's also an epigenetic effect of the sperm having on us as well. So when we get sperm in our body from a man and on a regular basis, it actually changes us as well. There's studies on that. And so we start forming our ideologies, and our desire becomes even more for that man. The more you have the consistency of that man in you, the more you're going to bond to him. And it's going to be even harder for you now to separate from him. And that's why that when you're in a foreign world and we are bonding to foreign men, we cannot change them. We cannot make them bow their knees to Yah. They're not going to be converted because you're having great sex with them. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So the mere fact that you're in relationship with him, you're kind of getting yourself more and more entangled and more stuck. The more pleasure you're having, the longer the time goes, the harder it is to pull out of this vagueness. But the thing about it as well is that it does not guarantee you that you're going to get married. And that is what's hard, because your hope is building up. Your hope is building up. Oh, one day he'll get on his hands and knees, another contrary thing, and ask me to marry, which is not going to happen, my sisters, because he's a foreign man. Now, if he was a Yah-fearing man, you would not be in this situation right now. You hear me? If he was a Yah-fearing man, and he knows the Word of God, he knows the Torah, he better make up his mind whether he wants you or not. Because he's not allowed to tamper with you if he does not want you. Okay? Otherwise, he's just treating you like a whore and a harlot, which they used to do also in Israel. But you do not want to be reduced to that, do you? If he's paying you for dates and he's giving you gifts and he gives you little bits of his time, that is the wages of a harlot. If you read in the Bible, there's a lot of times the terminology, the wages of a harlot, that's the payment of a harlot. That's not a payment of a wife, because a wife gets paid by the commitment, by the over there status of wife. The payment of a harlot is material things. A lot of material things and no commitment. The situationship, tolerating that, reduces you to a harlot's salary. And you're hoping to become a wife. Well, the more you play the harlot, the less likely you're going to be a wife. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, my sisters, but part of rehab is to wake up and see the state of which you're in. That is the rescue part of rehab, right? The triage part is that you have to wake up from your slumber and see the condition that you're in. If you are allowing men to sleep with you, or one particular one who is in that situationship, and he's not going to continue, and you have him continuing, then you are continuously playing the harlot, playing the whore. Can I say any more shameful names? I know it's shameful, but we gotta grasp it, my sisters, because the Word of God calls it shameful. I'm talking to mature women here, right? Hopefully you are realizing that call for wisdom is to raise your spiritual integrity a little bit higher. I'm not talking to babies in the faith. You know that if you let a man just simply sleep with you for pleasure, that is what prostitutes do. And you are no longer, if we do that, we are no better than the ones that we are condemning on OnlyFans, the ones that we're condemning on pornography. We are no better than that, because we're allowing it to happen. Okay? But this is the situation that we're in. You're saying, Sister Deborah, how do I get out? Well, the only thing you need to do is check yourself into rehab. Let us open up. Let's open up to Ezra. And I'm going to read to you why we need it and how it's going to happen, okay? Okay, so Book of Ezra. It's in the middle of your book a little bit. Chapter 9. Follow along with me. This is a story about how the Most High used the prophet Ezra to confront the leaders, the head of the Israelites, who were selling or giving their daughters and their sons away to foreign men, foreign women, giving them in marriage, interracial, interfaith. Okay? So, verse 9. Chapter 9, verse 1. Now, when these things had been completed, princes approached me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land, according to the abominations, those of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Zebulites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. Basically, they have not separated themselves. This is what we're in right now. We're all over the world. We have not literally separated ourselves from the culture. This is what he's saying. They have not separated themselves. Although they're in exile, they have not emotionally, culturally put ourselves separate from them. For they have taken, verse 2, for they have taken some of their daughters as wives for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy race, has intermingled with the peoples of the land. Indeed, the hands of the princes and the rulers have been foremost in the unfaithfulness. Like the leaders, the people that are supposed to be guiding us, are the ones right there doing it themselves, allowing their daughters to marry foreign men, giving their daughters away to foreign men, non-Hebrew, non-followers of Torah. I feel guilty too, my sisters, because the leaders were doing this, right? But some of you, like me, have no husband. You know, if you feel like you have no husband or you have no father in your life, you gave yourself. The leader didn't give you. You gave yourself to foreign men. Okay, verse 3. What I heard about this matter, this is what Ezra's saying, I tore my garment and my robes, and I pulled some of my hair from my head and my beard, and I sat down appalled. Imagine, he was so distraught when he heard this. This is how serious it is. He pulled out his hair when he heard that the daughters of Zion and the men of Israel were being intermingled with the foreign men and the foreign women. Then everyone who trembled at the words of God of Israel on account of unfaithfulness of the exiles gathered to me, and I sat appalled until the evening offering. Wow. But at the evening offering I arose from my humiliation, even with my garment and my robe torn, and I fell on my knees and stretched up my hands to the Lord my God. And I said, Oh my God, oh, I am ashamed and embarrassed to lift up my face to you, my God, for our iniquities have risen above our heads, and our guilt has grown even to the heavens. This is how serious it is. Ezra is like pleading, saying, oh yeah, the sin that we have committed by intermingling with the foreigners has risen to heaven. Yah is not pleased by this. This is the gravity that's hit me, my sisters. The situationship is extremely not okay. Like extremely, not mildly, extremely not okay with the Most High. He calls this unfaithfulness because we are supposed to be separated from the world. Wow, that, I don't know about you, but when I got that revelation, it was a hard one to swallow. Verse 7. Since the days of our fathers to this day, we have been in great guilt on the account of our iniquities. We, our kings, our priests, have been given into the hands of the kings of the land, to the sword, to captivity, to plunder, and to the open shame as it is this day. But now, for a brief moment, grace has been shown from the Lord our God, to leave us an escaped remnant, and to give us a peg in the holy place, that our God may enlighten our eyes. Oh, grant us a little relief in our bondage. This is what the Most High is doing right now, my sister. He's giving us a little relief in our bondage. We're still in bondage. But He's opening our eyes and He's giving us a little grace, saying, repent. Even if you're scattered all over the world, still repent of what is going on. Verse 9, for we are slaves, yet, in our bondage, our God has not forsaken us. No, He is not. But has extended loving kindness to us in the sight of the kings of Persia, to give us reviving, to rise up the house of God, to restore its ruins, and to give us a wall in Judah and Jerusalem. Now, our God, what shall we say after this? For we have forsaken your commandments. Oh, have we done that? Verse 11, which you have commanded to our servants, the prophets, saying, the land which you are entitled entering to possess is an unclean land, with uncleanness of people of the land, with their abominations which have filled it from end to end, and with their impurities. So now, do not give your daughters to their sons. This is what Yah is ordering them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, nor take their daughters to your sons, and neither seek their place or their peace or prosperity, that you may be strong and eat the good things of the land, and leave it as an inheritance to your sons forever. So the Lord is commanding them not to take any foreign wives. Don't take them. Don't give your daughters to the foreign men. Don't take the foreign wives. And why does God always say that? It said it in so many times. King Solomon, he was condemned not for the 1,000 women that he had, but the fact that the majority of his wives were foreign wives. They were foreign. The word foreign means that they were not submitting to Torah, to Yeshua, to Yah. That is what we mean by foreign, okay? It's not because there are different black colors or races or like that. It's not about race and ethnicity. It's about your faith and your allegiance, foreign in that way. Because any person who bows their knees to Yah, obeys the commandments, worships the Most High and Yeshua, is no longer foreign. You're now grafted into the tree. You're now part of the nation. But if you refuse to do that, you're foreign. And so we're not supposed to give ourselves deliberately to people who do not want to be part of the nation, part of Zion. Simple put, right? And the mere fact that we are doing that is unfaithfulness to the Most High, because He's commanded us not to do that. And when we get that revelation, my sisters, this is why we're in this situationship. Because how can we deliberately give ourselves over to foreign men and expect these foreign men to observe the Torah and to marry us righteously? Why would they marry you righteously? They don't even submit to Yah. They don't obey. They don't even believe in the book. Some of them are even atheists, don't even believe in God. But even if they believed in God, they don't obey the Torah. They don't keep the Sabbath. They don't keep the dietary laws. They don't really care about headship and leadership. They don't care about them being the head over you. None of that, right? So they will not act this way towards you. Yet you're giving you to them and hoping and praying, that they would commit. They do not commit. So for you're in the situationship because you're mingling with foreign men. That is the reason. How do we get out of it? How do you get out of it? Well, here we go. Like a broken record. Sister Deborah, uncalled for wisdom. I guess you could know. Type into the little chat if you got my number one. There's 4 ways to get out of it. 4 ways. Number one is that you need to find yourself a cover, a shelter. Obviously not a husband because you don't have a husband yet, but you got to find your shelter. Number 2, you got to confess your sins. Number 3, you got to depend on Yah and not on your own power. Not on your own power, my sisters. And number 4, you got to submit to your shelter. Okay? So number 1, the cover. So you're coming into rehab. Again, I'm at the end of the episode. You're going to have to do this yourself, right? This is something that I can't do. You got to sign yourself into this commitment. And the commitment focuses on finding yourself, my sisters, a cover, a headship, a shelter, a man that spiritually is going to take over you. Now, if you're from the world, you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back into many episodes, and there's one in particular called Questions from the Daughters of Zion about marriage, okay? You'll find out with Brother Mike and me talking about that for 2 hours about covering. For those of you who already know what I'm talking about, I don't need to go into deeper again. It is so important, my sisters. You can't bypass it. The daughters of Zion are given into marriage by the man. We are not the ones giving ourselves over. And why should we not be the ones giving ourselves into marriage all on our independent selves? It's because we do a lousy job at it, number 1. Sheep don't negotiate with shepherds. Shepherds negotiate with shepherds. Men do that. No emotions attached to it. They can better do this because they have pleaded the cause. It's like going to court, right? You need a lawyer. I don't need to go defend myself in court. I need a lawyer who talks for me. Out of the emotionality of my heart, I will say a lot of things I shouldn't say. The lawyer is out of it, right? He is more focused. The same thing with a husband and a father figure. The father figure, my father, he died young. But, if you have a very good father in your life, he's supposed to be the one negotiating you right now with any man that you interact with. Any man, my sisters, that you interact with. Your cover is supposed to be involved in that aspect of your life. That is why I'm very hesitant to say that you can use a pastor as a cover. Unless you have a very close relationship with an elder, a mature man who has a head, who has a family, who has included you into his family like a daughter, and you have a very close relationship with him, then he possibly, and you have to really pray and fast about that, could be a shelter. But he has to have an intimate relationship with you like a daughter. And he should be not having any sex with you because he would be a husband. Right? But the whole point is that the traditional version of pastor doesn't cut it for shelter. My father had an intimate relationship with me. He knew when I came in, when I came out. He can grab your phone. He can read all the messages. He can find out who was on your DM. He can see the history of your photos. He should be able to tap into your phone at any time. He can check on the men who is knocking on your doors. He can check on who is in your life. And he has a right to get that information if he commands it from you. The reason why I say this is part of rehab is just like going into the world into rehab. The very first thing they do is say, hand over your phone. Sign yourself in. You're voluntarily submitting. Hand over your phone. Hand over your independence to the person who's in charge of the rehab. And the person in charge of the rehab is not you. It is not you. That is what I'm trying to say. The world right now, if you went and you looked it up on YouTube or in Google, solutions for the situationship, they always put the power back into your hands. Do you notice that? They say, oh girl, mostly, oh just, go cold turkey. Just ignore him. Or they tell you, okay, if that doesn't work, block his number. Trust me, I've tried that too. Totally block his number. Block the number. Oh, if that doesn't work, well, just say you're friends, friends only. And then you're feeling lonely one night and you got the itch and you're feeling sick and you call the man up and he comes to comfort you and then the comfort becomes sex. I mean, come on, let's be realistic, my sisters. We are women. We are women. We have biological needs for affection, for protection, for sex, for cuddles, for hugs, for kisses. We love it. We need it. It is part of our DNA to crave it, right? And we are biologically unable to get ourselves out of the situationship on our own. It's like having an alcoholic try to become a non-alcoholic on his own. Everybody knows it's better to partner up, right? And the partnering up is to go back into the shelter, my sisters. I know you didn't want to hear that, but I warned you. At the end of the episode, rehab is self-programming yourself into a relationship with a shepherd. And when you get in there, there's 4 expectations for that man that hopefully he will fulfill. Number 1 is that he has to be a Yah-fearing man, preferably a Yah-fearing man that obeys the Torah, right? Before you tell me there's none out there, let me just go through it and then we'll go back, okay? Because Isaiah chapter 4 verse 1 predicted that you and I in 2024 would be in this predicament when there is very few Yah-fearing men and there's lots of us. And that's why Isaiah chapter 4 verse 1 says 7 of us will grab hold of one Yah-fearing man. That's how rare it is, and say, well, we will take care of our needs. You're good. We will take care of our financial needs. We'll take care of our food and our shelter. Just give us husband, be our shepherd, have our babies. Take away our reproach of being single and out there in the situationship with foreign men. Now, I haven't read chapter 10 of Ezra, because chapter 10 of Ezra, Yah goes into it even deeper. but to save some time, I will not go into it right now, but I suggest you read it, where he tells the leaders to actually put away the foreign wives and their children. And that's a harsh one. Like he tells them to legally do it actually, give them a bill of divorce. I know, the foreign wives and the children. That's how seriously these men, these shepherds had to act. But he didn't tell the women to do it. He told the men to do it because the men have the power and the responsibility as head over you to do the dirty work. Now that is what a shepherd can do in your life. If you need this man, this situationship out of your life, and you have to first find a good shepherd, a good head over you. Confess that to that shepherd, that head over you, what you're going through. Tell him about your relationships. You should be having an intimate relationship. Tell him about that. Tell him about the situationship with these men. Hopefully just one. Tell them about it. Tell them what's going on. Open your heart. He will pray for you. He should pray for you. He should fast for you. You can pray and fast as well. But he also is responsible for doing the dirty work. And that is to actually help you get rid of him. Get rid of the situationship. So it's not you doing it. It's now the shepherd in your life putting the boundary around you, putting the hedge of protection around you in a spiritual way, in a very, very practical way, so that he can now take out the elements of your life that are not supposed to be there, the men in your life that is not supposed to be there, cleaning up the situationship with you because you're surrendering to the rehabilitation that he's responsible for. Headship and covering, that's what they do. They're supposed to tend you. You're a field. They're supposed to take out the weeds. Literally, my sisters. I know the independence part of you, the queen mentality, the Jezebel spirit, the Asherah spirit is rebelling to these words. Rebuke it. Rebuke those spirits. Calm down, my sisters. The feminine spirit that is rebelling against these words, just rebuke it. You need to submit to the shelter. This is the order of things. Submit to your husband. If you have one, you shouldn't be in a situationship, but submit to your father. Submit to the cover. Find cover in a Yah-fearing man. Find cover in a Yah-fearing man. And when you do find one, you might want to call up another sister and say, I found one. Let's work on getting him all together, because that's how it ends up that 7 of us is going to call for one. It's because now this revelation is like, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. I cannot get myself married even if I wanted to. Men are no longer marrying. And I'm not allowed to. I am not allowed to, as a Yah-fearing woman, I'm not allowed to be married, given to marry to foreign men. End of story. Yah is not pleased with that. He doesn't compromise with that. He does not want that. That is not pleasing to him. When I read the book of Ezra and that revelation came, I can see now why Isaiah is saying we're going to be desperate, because we're going to open our eyes to that reality going, oh my goodness, the market has just crashed for the daughters of Zion. The worldly women are fine. I mean, they're going to complain about not being married, but they'll get along. They'll be fine. You and I are not fine because we are commanded to fall into rank. We are commanded to have a head over us. We are commanded to have a cover over us. We are not allowed to be outside, not allowed to be in rebellion. Do not fight it, my sisters. So if you have not found one yet, pray and fast to the Lord find you a shelter, a spiritual man over you that can help you, protect you in that way, right? And if he is a Yah-fearing man, which he has to be, this is what I'm telling you right now, you need that. He's supposed to put a barrier around you. He's supposed to try to protect you from this situationship. He's supposed to try to help you pull this man out of your life, these men out of your life, by limiting how much access you have to them, putting some accountability in your part, finding out when last you spoke to him, all that great stuff that we call manipulation, domineering, all these feminist words. This is what they're supposed to do. And he's also supposed to demand his bride price for you in the future. So not only is he supposed to help you separate yourself from him, he's supposed to help you separate yourself from the world, because you're now accountable to him. He can find out where you're going, what you're doing, how you're dressing. But when men do approach you now, you have somebody to send to, right? You have a father figure, you have a head to send him to and say, you know, you want access to me, you got to go through my security guard called my cover. Yeah, and that cover is going to demand a price for you. It might not be a virgin price because you're no longer a virgin, let's just admit it, but it will be a price for you in the sense that he has to find out if the man qualifies and if he wants to marry you. Because if he doesn't want to marry you, he does not qualify. And that negotiation about your hypergamous needs, now it can be done, right? You talk to him about what you require, what you desire, and your head can now negotiate with the man who's interested in you. And you, yes, you have a part to play. Don't panic. In the sense that he respects you, build that relationship. You know, if you have a good relationship with your father, I could suggest you choose your father. But if you need a man who's not your father, go for a biological relative, preferably. Okay? Somebody who has no sexual interest in you whatsoever. Older elder is like your last resort, but again, he has to be intimately involved in your life. Not a pastor who you visit on Sundays. None of that. Somebody who can grab the phone, somebody can call you up, somebody can call this man up and say, stay away from her. And because it's a man, he will more respect him than you. You have no power. Self-help is not possible in this situationship. You are in rehab because you are addicted to foreign men. So no more of I can do this on my own. Oh, I'll follow my instincts. That is a lie from the pit of hell. How far is it taking you so far to get out of these situationships? How many times have you tried and you've never succeeded? Because you've been doing it on your own and not according to the order of the headship of the Most High. You've been trying to fend off these shepherds on your own, but you're out in the wild. It's like, imagine a sheep, right? Out in the wild, trying to protect itself because it has beautiful fur, you know, and people come and pet it and play it. But it has no protection. It can't protect itself without a shepherd. That is what you are. You need to get yourself into a field that is protected and guarded by a shepherd. And when it's guarded by a shepherd, if any other man is interested in you, shepherd interested in you, he now has to go through the barrier of your security guard called your cover. Okay? So my sisters, that is the rehabilitation order of things. Sign yourself in, find yourself a shepherd, find yourself a cover, pray and fast about it to find that. If you are really in a tough situation right now, I suggest you kind of follow me along, look on my email, send me a message, and I'll try to respond to you, pray with you. This is a serious matter for the daughters of Zion. The worldly women do not understand that, but if you're a daughter of Zion and you know that you need to find a shelter, it's an altar call. It's a prayer. It's a fasting. It's I need cover. And the only way I can get rid of this situationship in my life is through that method at this point. Okay? So email me at mycallforwisdom@yahoo.com or send me a message on the chat and then we'll see how we can work things out with you. But I keep on praying for you, my sisters. Thank you for listening to the episodes today. And may the Lord give you guidance as you seek to obey Him fully. Love you. Take care.